Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University's Department of Athletic Communications. I'm your host, Todd Miller. There's a lot of negativity going on in the world of college sports, of course, all related to COVID-19. Today, we're going to switch gears. We're going to change it up, and we have good news as far as Bison Hill is concerned. We welcome in Taylor Hearn, who is soon to be a 26-year-old left-hander for the Texas Rangers. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Todd.
All right, let's talk about your personal journey. You've had quite a journey. You've overcome quite a bit of stuff. You're a native of Royse City, Texas. You had your high school number retired on a day they called Taylor Hearn Day. Thinking back to those days, what was that like for you as such a young man?
Man, high school was a lot. I didn't get a chance to pitch my senior year, which also sucked as well. But it was a fun experience. That's still stuff I still think about to this day. How much I miss high school, and but I think the biggest thing, just thinking about how crazy it's flown by. I feel like I'm about to be 26, and I feel like, dang, I felt like a couple of weeks ago I was 16, 17 years old walking through high school. So just crazy how life, is flying by right now.
Everything that you've had to overcome going back to missing your senior year in high school, did the idea ever cross your mind of, I guess maybe this path that I've chosen for a hopeful career just maybe isn't going to work out?
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's one thing that crossed my mind a lot, especially my senior year of high school. But I had honestly, I know a lot of people probably don't know this, but I actually almost quit baseball my freshman year of college because I got hurt in Florida and then ended up needing, a screw placed in my elbow. But I was just in so much pain, and I was just tired. And, if it wasn't for my mom being able to always be on me about, staying in my Bible and keep reading and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't be here right now. Because I know, just going through a bunch of stuff, it was hard. And I know quitting was one thing that came across my mind.
You have an absolutely great family history. Your grandfather's like a rodeo legend down in the state of Texas. You had three uncles that rodeoed. You actually did for a time, started at age 4. Did you ever think about that as a possible career path?
Oh, for sure. That came across a lot. That I know that was one thing my grandpa wanted me to do, was following his footsteps and everything. But I kind of felt like, baseball would be a little bit easier. Oh, well, it wouldn't be easier, but a little bit more. I'd have, would make a little bit more money, of course. And then, like, to be honest with you, if you're in the pro rodeo, like, you're always gambling money. So those guys, they always have to get a job afterwards. So I'd rather try to make a couple million or so, and that way I don't have to work afterwards.
What was your rodeo career like? I mean, because as I mentioned, you started at a very young age. And did you go till you were like in your mid-teens? Is that correct?
Yeah, I stopped going whenever I was about 14 or 15. I started getting, a little bit more serious with baseball. But I mean, I had done that since I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. So that was something that's always ingrained in me. That was the first thing I picked up, was a rope. It wasn't a baseball or football or anything. It was a rope. So being being around horses and stuff, that's like part of me as well. And that's definitely something I want to do whenever I get done playing. But yeah, I had been like as high as, we've been as high as like North and South Dakota, Wyoming, and, pretty much all over.
At what point did you decide maybe rodeo's not the path you want to go? I want to try baseball. When did you make that commitment full time to being a baseball guy? I know that was really your first love.
It happened when I was about 14 years old, when I started to, realize that, I was throwing the ball a little bit harder than most guys, but I was going to be, a big guy. And I was already growing and stuff like that. So I kind of figured, I was like, well, I wanted to play professional baseball because I've always watched it. And I was kind of just trying to take it day by day. I was like, look, like, let me try to get my velocity up, or just, whatever it is. So I probably say about 13 or 14 is when it probably got serious.
Would you consider yourself a late bloomer to the sport in terms of being serious for a guy that now has made it to the majors?
I think so. I think so, for sure, because when you're growing as tall as I was, and you're starting to learn your body and everything, a lot of stuff does start to come together to you about in your mid early 20s and stuff like that, and it's been a lot of hard work and stuff. But I still consider myself a late bloomer. I was always a guy that threw hard but didn't know where the ball was going. And now, over the years, they're slowly starting to come. That's one thing I was talking to one of my coaches about. couple months ago, he was like, that's one thing about tall guys that throw hard. He's like, control always comes last. So, I mean, you look at like Randy Johnson, he was a guy that had bad control early on in his career, but as he got older, it started getting more and more. So it's just one thing about being patient about it.
Former OBU Bison and current Texas Rangers left-hander Taylor Hearn is our guest on this special edition of Todd Talk. Taylor, you've always been kind of a guy that's bet on yourself, haven't you? Because you were drafted 3 times before you actually signed on the 4th time with the Washington Nationals. You elected to go to the junior college route, and then a small college route from there in college. You've always had the confidence in your ability, and therefore maybe you've taken a different path than a lot of other guys with your ability might have.
Yeah, for sure. I think that just goes back to also being able to bet on, like you said, bet on yourself, but then also believing in my ability. Because I feel like that's something that guys have a tendency to lose track of, is like who they are, and just betting on themselves, and being confident in that. And so, and then when I came to OBU, that was Bobby Cox was the one that took a chance on me, and helped me develop into the pitcher I am today as well.
So in 2012, 2013, 2014, you're drafted, but you elect not to turn pro. In 2015, as I mentioned, you were drafted and signed by the Washington Nationals. What was the thought process in the first 3 times you were drafted to bypass professional baseball at that time?
Well, I felt like I wasn't ready mentally, and I wasn't ready physically either. Like I was a guy that threw hard but didn't know where it was going, but I didn't have uh, much innings under me as well. I got hurt freshman year of college, and then was battling injuries sophomore year as well, and kind of just needed to go somewhere that was going to give me a shot to show me, or be able to show people that I can pitch, because I battled injuries. So it's like, look, like, you know I kind of figured going the D1 route wasn't going to really help or benefit me that much, because I needed to go somewhere that I was going to be able to show them I could play. And that's one thing I really do try to tell people all the time. Like in baseball, there's guys in the major leagues that come from NAIA schools like I did, or D2. You don't have to go Division 1 to get drafted, because in baseball you can get looked anywhere. So I know just that's one thing I always try to preach to younger kids. Is like, if you want to go D1, that's cool, but like, it doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed to get drafted.
Taylor Hearn is our guest on this edition of Todd Talk. Taylor, the 3 times you were drafted and you bypassed professional baseball, I would think at that age, that had to be a tough decision. But yet a mature decision, as you mentioned, that, like, I'm not ready. But the fact when some guys get drafted, that's the end goal for them, and they go ahead and pursue that professional dream.
Yeah, of course, and at the time, the money that the teams were offering me wasn't. I felt like it was what I was valued at, because I felt like they were only going off of sample size and just going off of guesses, and I really felt like if I can sit there and go out and show you guys what I can do, who knows how much money I could get, and to be honest with you, I'm glad I did that, because it paid off. Each year, kept getting better and better. And then that last year I got drafted and signed, it was a round that I wanted to go in top 5. And so I was pretty comfortable with it, but it's patience is a virtue, I guess you could say.
When you look back at your college career, especially that one year, and you had a brilliant year, went 9-0 on Bison Hill. What's some of your favorite memories and time spent at Oklahoma Baptist?
Oh, there's a lot. I'd probably say one of the biggest ones was when the year before they set the record for the longest win streak, and then that next year when I got there, we broke it and then extended it. And I just remember talking to Cody Painter and Boss. They were always, he came up to me on the day I was pitching the game where we were supposed to set the record, and he was, giving me a hard time, talking about, hey, like, no pressure at all, but we can set the record today. So that was one memory I'll never forget.
Is Bison Hill the place where you started to really learn about being a pitcher and maybe eventually what it would take to be a pitcher at the professional level?
I think so, 100%. Talking to Cody Painter and CC and Boss as well, but then also being just, Painter did a really good job, because he comes from he was a catcher. So, he gives that aspect from a catching aspect, and with me being a smart guy as well, we had really good communication conversations about, what type of pitches do I want to throw and like what to do in certain counts and everything like that. But one thing I really do give them props about is, they're not like the generic college program where they like got the bands on, like, where it's like throw this pitch here. Like they let our catchers call the game. And I feel like that's how you learn as a pitcher. And that's where I feel like I got a lot better as a pitcher and, trusted my stuff a lot more. And they gave me a shot and let me be comfortable in my own skin and just, believed in me.
I tell you, I've got to admit, I'm sorry that our paths did not cross. I just missed you, I think, by a year on Bison Hill. But my 5 years, this would be my sixth with the Bison program. They're D2 in terms of what they're classified as. But that program, when you look at the coaching staff, the experience that they bring, the consistency to win, the commitment to winning, they're much, much bigger than a Division II program, wouldn't you say?
I think so for sure. I think there's, they definitely don't play like a Division II program. I mean, they've had some guys come through that D1 caliber guys. I know for a fact we can hang with D1 programs. But I mean, that's just like you said, that's just a salute to the coaches for getting the right guys and getting some very talented guys, under the radar type guys, and basically letting us be ourselves out there on the field, and being able to, that's one thing why I like going back there. I love going back there to help and just give guys knowledge and everything. The same atmosphere whenever I got there as well. They are trying to win games. They're also letting guys be themselves out there.
A lot of people, Taylor, feel like that professional baseball is a glorious job. And I guess somewhat that when you get to the big leagues, but few people actually get to the big leagues. There's hundreds of thousands of people that toil in the minor leagues. What was that experience like for you? Because I've talked to several others, and sandwiches and bus rides, that's not the glamorous lifestyle that people want to connect with pro baseball.
No, it's really not. Going through the different levels, starting from playing from the worst fields to slowly each level gets better, each field gets better. But yeah, the sandwiches and eating, God, like I can't remember how many times I ate oatmeal for pregame. Couple of, I ate it all the time, and I'm a big oatmeal advocate guy. But yeah, like it teaches you a lot. Teaches you how to learn the value of a dollar as well. Learn how to stretch money, knowing that we're not getting, at the time you're not getting paid that much. And then when you get to the major leagues, it's obviously you make more money, but then that's when the games start to count a little bit more. So you kind of got to be on your P's and Q's as well, and just being ready and adjusting. But I think one thing I really did take to pride and heart was just not trying to rush to get to the big leagues, but more so taking each level and learning from it and trying to better myself as a pitcher. So that way when I did get to the major leagues, I can be here and stay here.
And then the other part of professional baseball is you can be in one city one day, one franchise one day, and you're gone the next. You've been traded twice, the last time, of course, from Pittsburgh to Texas. What is that like to get that phone call from your agent and say, Taylor, pack your bags, you're going to head to Pittsburgh, you're heading to Arlington?
Well, usually what's crazy is people think the agent knows. It's actually the farm director that calls. Usually I had to call my agents at the time and tell them I got traded. So it was a crazy thing. Each scenario was different. The first time when I got traded to Pittsburgh, it was I found out in the middle of a game. And then I come in the locker room and see on MLB Network they're talking about the trade. And then when I get traded from Pittsburgh to Texas, it happened at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get no sleep the rest of the day. So it was every situation is different, but it's definitely. I think it definitely goes back to show, like, if you know who you are and your core values and what you believe in, and like I said, like believing in yourself, like, and just have an open line of communication with the coaches, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for them. Because I'm not gonna lie, whenever I got traded to Pittsburgh, it was tough at first because it was my first time being in a new organization and a whole bunch of coaches are watching you and wanting to give you advice and everything like that. It's kind of, you want to be respectful, but then again, you also got to let them know, like, hey, like, this doesn't work for me. Like, this works for me better. I feel comfortable doing that.
Do you ever take it personal? Like, hey, if I ever get a chance to play you guys again at the major league level, I want to stick it to you. I want to show you made a mistake, or is it that's just business and part of the game?
I think personally it's just business, because every time I've gotten traded, I've talked to the farm directors or just whoever it is, and they've always said like, hope we want to keep you, but we kind of need some help. And they were asking about you, they wanted you, so we don't want to give you up, but we need help as well. You know, and so I totally understand it from the business aspect. So I definitely don't take any of that stuff personal. But I'm not gonna lie. I do face Pittsburgh or Washington. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna have a little edge as well.
Was it? I'll use the term. I don't know if that's the right term. A dream come true for you to end up in Arlington. I mean, you grew up in Royse City, Texas, which is really just outside the metro area down there in Dallas, Fort Worth. So were you tickled to be acquired by the Rangers?
For sure, I wasn't even expecting it. And it was. I think it's just funny because when you've grown up going to Ranger games, you always picture yourself playing in Frisco. You always picture yourself playing in in Globe Life Field, at the ballpark with the Ranger uniform. It's a dream come true. Also, even to this day, like I still look at the Texas on my jersey and I still think like, dang, I remember watching Josh Hamilton. I remember watching Mike Napoli, all these guys come through here putting this jersey on. I'd always tell myself like how bad I wanted to do that, and how cool it'd be. So I think it's just surreal and just crazy how God works as well.
If I would have asked you before you were traded to the Rangers, is there one team in the majors you'd like to go to? Would it have been the Texas Rangers?
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is though, like I honestly, I honestly didn't want to come until like it was the end of my career. I was just, I just didn't know what was going to happen. But, if I had it my way as well, I would love to come here and spend my whole career here because, how cool is that to be able to spend, you stay here for the off season and sit there and sleep in your own bed. And like when the season's over, I don't have to go anywhere. Like live here, So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Well, this year you're going to have a decision. You're a free agent after 2020. I know it's a business deal. You'll take whatever you can get, but I think it's fair to say you would be happy staying with the Rangers.
Oh, for sure. But I know for a fact, I know my contract's not up till I think it's like 2022, I think. Or
Okay,
22.
I thought it was 2020.
Yeah. I still got, a couple more years here, but like I know for a fact I want to stay here long term as well. So, and I know from conversations with them, they want to keep me here long term as well. So that's the plan.
Okay, to be a great athlete, especially I think a great baseball player, you have to have a very short memory. In fact, you almost have to have amnesia. And you had that from your one stint last year in Seattle to a terrific return performance this year in the Pacific Northwest. Did you think at all about what had happened last year when you took them out in Seattle last week?
Yeah, I did because I just remember telling people when I walked in the stadium, I was like, man, this kind of brought back some bad vibes and bad memories. But I'd always told people, I'm like, look, I'm gonna change that. If I get my shot during the series, I say I'm gonna go out there and change it and try to get that sour taste out of my mouth. But then also just continue to build off of that for the rest of the season. So if it was, you had talked about earlier, talking about if it was one team I had a little edge on or something like that, it was definitely Seattle because that was, a day that it was kind of out of my control and I got hurt. So I was like, look, I'm gonna try to rewrite it right here and just, and fix it.
Taylor Hearn is our guest on this edition of Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University Department of Athletic Communications. What went through your mind last year, Taylor? Obviously, you had some arm problems, and you had that rocky outing in Seattle. Did you walk off the mound that day wondering what your future might be because of both of those things in combination?
Yeah, a good amount I did because I just didn't know what happened. It was just a crazy situation about getting injured, and then I get injured again. So I just felt like it was, that year was just a rough year. And over talking with a bunch of guys on the coaching staff and stuff like that in the front office, they were like, no, like, we still believe in you. We know what you're capable of. We just got to get you healthy. It was just an unfortunate situation. And, I personally just felt bad and felt sick because I felt like I let a lot of people down that were supporting me. I really felt bad for the OBU community because I was like, dang, I was the first guy to get to the big leagues. I couldn't even, do well in my first outing. So that was one thing that weighed on me as well. But having that support as well, having people saying, hey, that was a big compliment to even make it was a big deal. So But to be able to go back again last couple days and be able to do that, that was pretty bittersweet though.
Taylor, I know in talking to people that know you very, very well, you take very good physical care of yourself. Having said that, it has to be frustrating because of the injuries. Is that related to the growth spurt that you went through? I mean, what can you attribute to the onset of injuries you've had off and on during your career?
Honestly, I think it was just weird. It was just, like when you see or hear guys have Tommy John surgery, like they still don't know to this day how guys get Tommy John surgery. So that's how I kind of was seeing it. And that's how I talked to a bunch of our doctors about it. They're like, look, it's just, it's just a freak accident and just stuff like this happens. But I definitely didn't want to let it define my career because honestly, if I had it, if I had it my way, it would be like, if they said you have a bad outing your first big league debut, but then you end up having a Hall of Fame career, or would you rather have a good outing your first big league debut and not be a Hall of Famer? I'd be like, oh, I'll take the Hall of Fame stuff all day because, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
You feel 100% healthy now?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel a lot stronger, velocity's back up and fastball and everything's playing up a little bit better. So I feel like, I took a lot of time this offseason to get ready and didn't stop throwing and kept throwing bullpens and everything to make sure I was ready to go for the season.
That's my next question. You have been a starter through much of your career. All of a sudden, you find yourself coming out of the bullpen, meaning you may not work every day. You may not work every 2 or 3 days. What's been the change in mindset for you making that transition during your career?
Well, just I think just being able to know as a bullpen guy, like no matter the situation you're coming in, you're going to have to come in and throw strikes right out the gate. And whether that's, I'm not going to have time to sit there and have that starter mentality where I can sit there and work the corners and go up and down and try to set you up for stuff. It's like I don't have time for that when you're in the bullpen. So that was something I kind of needed to learn and try to figure out as well, because this is a new mindset, and especially doing it in the major leagues, it's tough as well because every game counts in the major leagues. So I definitely don't want to sit there and walk people on purpose or give up runs, but I'm out there trying to find a rhythm, trying to understand it. But I think over these last couple of outings, I've kind of started to figure stuff out and understand it. And I really think like when that door does open back up, when I do become a starter, I think the stuff I've been learning as a bullpen guy is going to help because, I've always been an aggressive guy, but, I feel like some type of edge or something I've learned in the bullpen is going to help.
Taylor Hearn, OBU alum, is our guest here on this edition of Todd Talk. Also, soon to be a 26-year-old left-hander for the Texas Rangers. Talk a little bit about the mindset of a reliever, because you can come in situations, you can come in and be asked to get it out, 2 outs. In your case in Seattle last week, 2 innings. I mean, you never know when you're going to pitch, and you never know what situation you're going to be called upon.
Yeah, you're right. And it was kind of tough because the first time when I did get called up, I pitched that day and then I didn't pitch for another 6 days. And so it's just on that type of stuff when you're in the bullpen. It's like you just got to be ready for whatever. And it's hard because you got to find a routine to stay ready, because I've always been used to, being on a 5-day rotation, throwing a bullpen, 2 or 3 days later, then, throwing again for 2 days. So, I kind of found like a routine to stay ready. So that way, if I do have to sit, if I don't pitch for about 5 or 6 days, I'll be ready. You know what I'm saying? But it's tough as well because, you can't see batters all the time.
So what's this season been like? I mean, sports in general is just a mess right now with COVID-19. You don't start until August. You have an abbreviated, if you will, summer training session. And now you're basically going back to the minor leagues where you play in front of very few people, in this case, nobody. How difficult is that as a professional athlete with what you're being asked to do, 60 games in such a short period of time?
I tell you what is weird. When you walk in these stadiums and everything, you don't, they do the little fake crowd noise. And I'll be honest with you, that stuff doesn't help at all. Like that stuff does not help. It's honestly, I don't like it. But it is weird because, it's a sprint. Every team is capable of making the playoffs. And now that, we're basically halfway through or, we got 4 or 5 weeks left in the season, like, it's every team for themselves and everybody's trying to win. So it is definitely a weird year because, guys are going down with injuries because it's been such a short season. So teams are starting to depend on younger guys to get their shot. And so, I know for a fact during this time, I'm going to make the most of it and be able to let these guys know, like, hey, like I'm back, I'm ready and I'm healthy and I'm ready to help this team, whatever they need.
This is a big stretch for you and the Rangers, and you got off to a good start on a 7-game homestand with the Dodgers and the A's last night, a 3-2 victory over Oakland that came in with the second-best record in baseball and clearly the front runner right now in the West. How important was that to get this young team's confidence back on track?
It is because we were going through an 8-game losing streak, and we were putting up a fight. We were playing against a really good team, the Padres, and then we get swept by Seattle. That wasn't good either. So I think that just goes to show how crazy baseball is. How you can sit there. We were hitting hard balls and pitching, hitting and pitching had been doing well. But I think as a team, we've been coming together. Everybody's pulling on the same rope, and it's just a matter of time. And I think honestly, I think this series and against the Dodgers will be a good one because I know we got Oakland, Dodgers, and the Astros afterwards. So this is going to be some very crucial games, and the trade deadline coming up. We gotta do some stuff.
You grew up, as you mentioned earlier, going to the ballpark in Arlington. How different is it to see that thing vacant across the parking lot now, where you had a lot of childhood memories, but yet playing in a new state-of-the-art facility down in Arlington?
It feels a lot better, I'll tell you that. AC.
Called air conditioning?
Yeah, I know, man, because it's so much better because it's, don't get me wrong, it still gets hot in there. Like, trust me, it gets hot in there. It took me a while, a little bit to get used to it because, just because it's indoor and I'm not used to playing it indoor. But I like it a lot better. It's not 100 degrees outside and then 120 on the field. So it's a lot better.
One of the things you alluded to earlier, and I want to back up and touch on it again, I think kids today, and I alluded to this with you, get enamored with the draft. They'll take the first draft offer they get, or they want to go Division I. It's got to be Division I or bust. You say don't get caught up in the classification of college baseball, right?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I tell something I always preach to kids that are going through high school and college. They have to want to sign for, if you want to sign for $100,000 or whatever. But that's why I always bet on myself. I see it like you're an investment. So it's like the more money you sign for, the more time that'll buy you in the minor leagues. Because everybody wants to sit there and be in the major leagues the next year or so. But if you sign for $10,000 or something like that, or $50,000, like your window, like you got to come out hot. Your window's going to be small. But think if you sign for $300,000-$400,000, like they got to give you a chance, because they invest the money in you. So that's kind of how I saw it. And that's one of the reasons why I kept going and kept waiting for the right opportunity to show them, and then get an investment in myself as well.
It has been a tough go, I think it's fair to say, for you to achieve this dream in your life. But I get the feeling in talking to you, Taylor, that there's not one thing you would go back and change. I mean, everything you've had to endure has made you a better person and certainly prepared you more for the stage that you perform on a nightly basis.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't change anything I went through, anything. Whether that's from high school, colleges, switching colleges, going through injuries, just whatever it is, I wouldn't want to change it because, when you kind of get to the major leagues, or when you get through in professional baseball, you're going to experience failure. And I'm so thankful and so glad that I was able to experience that stuff outside the field and also on the field, because we all know like the hardest thing and the biggest battles of all of us is mental stuff, especially in baseball. Baseball is a game that will drive you mentally crazy. So I've always had a good thing of just having short-term memory and being able to learn that the great thing about baseball is there's always tomorrow.
Man, appreciate the time. There's so many people in Shawnee and throughout Bison Nation that is a big fan of yours, myself included, and we love keeping up with your career, and we hope to see you soon.
Oh, of course. I always will keep representing OBU to the end. So I appreciate all the support. How's
this? I'm going to come see you pitch when fans are welcome back in Arlington. How's that?
Please do. Bring all OBU with you, man. It'd be awesome. I mean, that'd be great.
I'll do it. Thanks again, Taylor.
Of course. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Taylor Hearn, our guest on Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University Athletics. We'll have more guests and more shows on down the line. Keep tuning in to Oklahoma Baptist University's YouTube channel. For Taylor Hearn, I'm Todd Miller. We'll see you next time on another edition of Todd Talk.